being chased, thrown on the run, and it is caught. Touchdown, Keenan Allen. What a grab.
That's what I'm talking about. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. That's the warrior spirit right there, boy.
Huge sack by Joey Bosa.
90-yard touchdown. 90-yard touchdown.
That's going to be picked off at the 8-yard line by Derwin James.
Herbert sets his feet, takes a shot downfield, has Knighton. Caught! Touchdown, Chargers!
That's the greatest throw I've ever seen.
What's going on, Bolt fam? Andy with Jack and Alistair, the boys of the Thunder Down Under Chargers podcast. Welcome to today. We are exceptionally grateful to welcome a special guest on the show whose extensive resume is compiled of, but certainly not limited to, a combined 20 years of sports media and marketing experience, 18-odd seasons affiliated with marquee NFL and NBA teams. He's produced over 9 years' worth of original print and broadcast content, formerly worked with the Washington Commanders and the LA Lakers, produced, edited, contributed to the Move the Sticks podcast with Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks. Listeners, you'll all know him as being Los Angeles Chargers team reporter since July 2017, host and producer of the Chargers Weekly podcast, and as sports anchor on KCAL News. That's right, it's my great honor to welcome new friend of the show, Chris Hayre, to the TDU studio.
Hey, Chris.
What's up, guys? Hey, I appreciate the kind words. I love the intro to that podcast, man. You guys are doing awesome work, and it's an honor to be with you.
Hey, appreciate you. Thanks for the kind words, Chris. It's the three of us have been big consumers of a lot of your work with Chargers Weekly, Move the Sticks. This is quite a special occasion to us, so thanks very much for taking the time to hang out with us for a little bit today and have a chat.
But pleasure's mine. It's amazing what the start of training camp can do for NFL fans, Chargers fans in particular. You get Justin Herbert in there, don't have to worry about the contract. Austin Eckler got his contract situation out of the way in the offseason, and it's just straight football right now.
Yeah.
A lot to be excited about in all three phases.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really nice to have all that off-field stuff out of the way so we can all just sort of focus on getting the team right to make amends for how last season ended. Obviously a busy week for you, and it's really kicking into gear. No doubt it's been incredibly exciting. We're going to get to all of that, but for now, I'm just going to throw over to Jack to take us through his first segment.
Cool. So, Chris, thank you so much again for coming on. I was doing a bit of research in your early career and things like that, and I guess I want to jump straight into what you alluded to before. You know what the feeling is like in the building at the moment. I'm a big Bill Walsh fan, and the score takes care of itself. It helps me in my professional career. And I saw that you were a member of the back-to-back winning Lakers sort of teams. That you're a part of that organization. What is going through that feel like, and is it something you've felt at the Chargers as well? I mean, just some insight into being at a organization that obviously wins it all. What's that like?
Yeah, Jack, it's a great question. And to your first point, The Score Takes Care of Itself is an amazing book. I actually found The Winning Edge, the book that's like very elusive that Bill Walsh bought. And I got, or that he wrote, and I bought a copy of it, maybe for a little bit more than it was probably worth just to have it, because but it's one of those books. Bill Walsh is just amazing. But to answer your question, it was a surreal experience. I was director of corporate sponsorships for the Lakers, so I was there for 9 of Kobe Bryant's last 10 seasons. So
amazing.
I got to experience 3 straight NBA championships, a pair of championships when they beat the Orlando Magic and the Boston Celtics in 7 games, which was just an epic series. The Chargers had this long history of winning, 17 championships now. And, at the time I was there, I think they had been in over 50% of the history of NBA finals. Like literally like 1 and 2 is a good chance the Lakers are in it, So that history of winning was always there, from the Showtime era to Kobe and Shaq to Kobe and Powell, and now, LeBron and Anthony Davis. The one constant was Kobe Bryant. Like that was the guy that you knew was going to take you to the promised land. Like you needed that guy. And I feel like as far as the Chargers are concerned, the guy under center, that's the guy, right?
Yeah, cool.
And I think, as we get to year 4 for him, with a new offensive coordinator, a huge contract out of the way. I've noticed Justin. I feel like his vocal leadership at training camp has been apparent. I think not having to worry about anything but football is a great thing, and I think the camaraderie that he has with Kellen Moore already and these receivers. Quentin Johnson being the new guy, but let's be honest, the chemistry between he and Keenan Allen, he and Mike Williams, he and Josh Palmer, who was the number one for a stretch of last year. I mean, that was on display. That's been on display. People forget that this guy had broken rib cartilage in week 2 of last year. Gutted through it, had a shoulder injury at the end of last year. No Mike Williams in the playoffs. Keenan Allen was gone for 8.5 games, essentially. Maybe the best left tackle in football out for the season. So, Jalen Guyton, another guy, the speed guy who gets hurt in Jacksonville against the Jacksonville Jaguars early in the year. So it's a long roundabout way of answering your question about the Lakers. the piece is the quarterback. And I do believe that Justin Herbert is one of those transcendent players that you can build around and eventually win a championship. Now, in the NFL, it's different. We could list off all the teams in the AFC and how difficult it is to get to the postseason, and win your division. You get the Chiefs in the division, Patrick Mahomes, who is that Michael Jordan right now. But I do think it starts with quarterback. They have tons of talent that I'm sure we'll get into, but you can win a Super Bowl with Justin Herbert, and you can do it early.
Yeah, I agree. I just think your time with the Lakers, and I was just doing a bit of reading and research, and you sort of seemed to you wanted to sort of go down the sports journalism path in 2015, I believe, and you graduated from Medill. I think that's how you pronounce it. Is that right? Medill School of Journalism. And you were awarded the highest and most prestigious award Medill can give to a graduate, which is incredible. Does having all that prior experience, with the Lakers, with Washington, does that give you more of an insight and maybe an easier way to navigate as a journalist and reporting on a team in an organization?
It's a great question. I think it does. I started in sports at a radio station. I thought I was going to take that media path immediately. And in sports, sometimes you take the path that you're given. And I received a full-time position at the then Washington Redskins, now Washington Commanders. I was there for a couple of seasons, parlayed that into a job with the Lakers. And don't get me wrong, I wouldn't trade a second of my time at both organizations. It was a dream, frankly. But I told myself if I didn't get back to what I love to do quickly in 2015, I'd never do it. So I made that switch to kind of differentiate myself from, sports executive to sports reporter, anchor, journalist, and I felt like I needed to do that. And coming back to Los Angeles, having the network, having the contacts. And frankly, knowing how a world-class organization operates, being in that building with the Lakers for 9 seasons, being, in the building of another NFL team earlier in my career, you have an appreciation for how things work on both the business side and the operations side, whether it be football or basketball operations. So I do think that gives you an advantage because you understand how things work inside a professional building.
Yeah, it's just so cool. You find the transition from a lot of players go into journalism, and they've got that clout. They've done the X's and O's. They've been out there. But I find the way that you report on it and the way you navigate and you talk with Matt Money Smith and just the insight that you can give and the way that you talk about the Chargers is really helpful for fans like us because we're not there. We're sort of not at training camp. So that was just a little bit.
We wish we were.
Yeah, so do I.
Look, Jack, I appreciate that very much because, Money and we don't take for granted what we do and the access that we do have, whether, be on the plane with the players or, at road games, at training camp, at practices. You really gain a great appreciation for the amount of work that goes into each and every week, from the coaching staff to the training staff to the players. It's quite remarkable to see what it takes to prepare and get up for a week in the NFL. And there's so many people that make it go. And, it's our absolute pleasure to be able to try to give fans some insight into what the Chargers are doing on a daily basis.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you from me. I'm going to pass over to Andy now. I think he's got a couple of questions as well.
Yeah, so just Chris, with regards to your time with the Chargers so far, obviously you worked in LA and then you took a couple of years off, probably just to sort of redirect your path, I guess, with what you wanted to do. What was the how did you sort of get the opportunity to join the Chargers? Was it just through connections in LA, or was there?
Yeah, well, you know what? I did have some connections to the team when they made that move from San Diego to Los Angeles. I knew when I was going to be done with graduate school, there was going to be at least one, likely two teams in Los Angeles. The Rams obviously came to LA first, and then the Chargers. So funny thing is, I pitched the Chargers on a podcast. They didn't have a podcast, right? So I said, you know what? Let me try this out in training camp, and I'll host it, I'll edit it, I'll get my own guests, and this could be something that you guys maybe think about, kind of implementing. So we did it in training camp. I think my first guest was Eric Williams of ESPN at the time, and LT was the next day because he was enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2017. And we just kept getting guests during camp.
Our guests are like that too, Chris.
Yeah.
Hey, we've had a Chargers Hall of Famer on the show.
Yeah. We had Darren Bennett last week. That was good.
That's amazing. There you go.
LT's next. He's down the pipeline.
LT's next. But that's how I started. Is I pitched him on a podcast. It stuck awesome. And it turned into Chargers Weekly, and here we are entering our 7th season doing it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's I guess you've had the clout behind, the professional clout behind you to be able to pitch that to the team. But it's fantastic that they turned around and said, yeah, we back you, give it a go. And it's been just going strength to strength. Like I said, we're big enjoyers of the show and of the content, and like Jack said as well, spot on with just bridging that kind of access to those who can't be there, and so it's great. So obviously the Chargers had just moved to LA, kind of when you came on the board on the scene, and it was a pretty interesting time in the team's history. What was it like reporting from the smallest StubHub center? The team's trying to find its new spot in the market. How was that?
It was interesting. I loved every second of it though, because it was the beginning of football in LA. The Rams got a year head start. It was definitely different seeing StubHub, be the home of an NFL team with 19,000 fans inside it. It was a surreal experience. It was a heck of a coaching job by Anthony Lynn. They started 0-4, if you guys remember. Did not look good. Yeah. They were close in all these games. I think it came down to a missed field goal in week 1, and then week 2 as well.
Yep, there's a few of those in our history. Yep.
A botched hold. Yep.
Yeah, that's what it was. I think was it a botched hold in week 1, then a missed field goal in week 2, something like that.
Take your pick. Yeah.
Take your pick. It was 0-4 start though, but to see Coach Lynn, I give him so much credit for everything that he had to kind of take on, taking over a new team with a veteran quarterback who, was idolized in San Diego, came up, teamed up with him, and then everything on the outside, not just the football stuff, having to just navigate all that, and then starting 0-4, and it's a real testament to him that he kept that locker room together, and they turned out. If you guys remember at the end of that year, man, they were really on the cusp of making the playoffs. The 2018 team was unbelievable, 12-4. A lot of good memories for me, at least, and to see where the fan base in Los Angeles is now from 2017. Just walking around training camp, we did some stuff for CBS last week, and just to see the line of fans. It's really cool, and I know the organization has to be proud of the great strides that they've made in Los Angeles. to be in a brand new building and just the most ridiculous stadium on earth. And to have a franchise quarterback like Justin Herbert and a fan base that's starving for a championship.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you make a really good point. It's something probably not considered too much about Anthony Lynn's tenure is just how difficult that is to sort of, because Phil, Phil wasn't, he made it clear that he wasn't going to move his family up there, and fair enough.
Yeah.
I don't know if they've got enough land to house all his kids. But he was pretty vocal about not being too keen on the idea of it. So that kind of made the whole situation harder. The San Diegan fans weren't happy about it at all, and you're going into a LA market where it's all glitz and glam, and there's the Lakers and success, and there's all those things, and you're really fighting uphill. So it's probably something that I until you said it, hadn't really considered standing up for in Anthony Lynn's corner, because as fans it all comes down to win-loss, and starting 0-4 is not a good look, even though the team comes good. It's just it was that sort of Chargers story, going 12-4, bailing out, and it's so cutthroat that there's always the need for change. Staley took the first couple of years to get going with his defense and stuff, and people are calling for his head, and you just kind of, I think maybe with how much we consume now in doing this, you just need to sit back and just chill and let him cook and do his thing.
Andy, it's a great point, and it's something that I wish, listen, fans can cheer and boo and do whatever they want to do, right? By all means, these guys get paid a lot of money to win games, but I always look at the human side of this thing, and just the amount of work that Coach Lynn, Coach Staley, that coaching staff, they got families, man. The thing can turn around on a dime. You can NFL not for long. And that's players and coaches. Yeah. So to appreciate the human side of it, and to really give, honestly, I always say this about Anthony Lynn, like he's one of my favorite guys. He really he kept things together at the beginning. They had an amazing team, 12-4. That was the closest team to kind of dethroning Kansas City in the AFC West during this time in Los Angeles. And Coach Staley, I do think that in his third year, you're starting to see him really get even more comfortable in that role of head coach of the Chargers. And they were 9-8 his first year, 10-7, getting into the playoffs. So you're seeing that upward trajectory. And then obviously year 3, when you bring in Kellen Moore, the turnover on the roster is not very much. A lot of the same guys are back. I think that's a good thing. And it was smart to be able to bring Keenan and Mike back. We know those cap numbers are huge next year, so it may be a different story in 2024. So, with some of these guys, they probably, I don't know if they acknowledge it publicly, but privately, they probably know that this is kind of the last ride with some of the core guys. I remember 2017, there's 5 guys on the team from 2017. Joey, Keenan, Michael Davis, Austin Eckler, and I'm missing somebody. It'll come to me. But Mike Williams. Mike
Williams, yeah.
5 guys. There's only 5 guys from the 2017 team. So the turnover's been crazy. It's what the NFL is, but yeah, I'm excited for this team and Coach Staley in year 3.
Yeah, well, I think it'd be super special for you to be a part of it as it's transitioned in new town, and you've seen the last regime end and now this one grow, and to be a part of it, because it's super exciting. And like you're saying, we've got some really awesome guys. So on that note, I'm going to hand over to Al, and he can get stuck right into what everyone wants to hear about is training camp and the season ahead.
Well, there's so much excitement, isn't there, Chris? You talk about fans lining up to get to watch the team. I know it's been hot in LA. You look like you got a bit of suntan, you and Money, trying to avoid the desperate LA sun.
It was brutal. We got a tent this past week, though, guys. That was good.
Oh, good. But all you need to do is spend a few minutes on Twitter, and you see that those trolls are out there, 27-0, 27-0, and that's going to hang over the team for a little bit until they can go out and actually right that wrong. From your vantage point, seeing the team every day, are you seeing that being used at all as a motivational tool, or is it don't talk about it? What are you seeing?
It's a great question. it's something that I thought about this offseason. Is this going to be something that they're just going to have to deal with all year? Part of me, as the mini camp in the kind of the summer break hit, I thought, all right, it's over. We've beaten this thing into the ground. Like, this is a new team. But frankly, it's not going to go away, because that sting, man. Like, I was in that locker room. I've never heard. It was deafening silence. It was like, I really can't explain it. I've never been a part of a locker room after a game like that. So that's going to stick with guys. That's going to stick with coaches. And I look at it as a positive. You know, it's something that you have to kind of go through. Everything in life, man. Like, you look at some of these Super Bowl champions and look at their careers before they actually won the Super Bowl. You know, look at Peyton Manning's career before he won his Super Bowl, and just kind of the peaks and valleys. Peyton Manning could never. He's never going to win it all, right? He's never going to win a Super Bowl. He's a regular season quarterback. He changed that narrative. You know, these guys have that opportunity to change the narrative, but they have to show it, right? There's no more. I think people are a little guarded to crown them as Super Bowl champions after, you know, what's happened the last couple of years, especially those last games. So they have to show it. And I think that they realize that, they embrace that. And there's really no other spot that you'd rather be in. Just show it. Get that taste out of your mouth. And I actually think it's a good thing that there's not much turnover on the roster.
Yeah.
Most of the guys who are going to make an impact this year felt the pain of Jacksonville in January.
Well, this is going to be that big turning point, right? Steel is forged in the fire. It goes either way. You can have 28-3, the whole Atlanta Falcons thing. That seems to have decimated that organization. We're all desperately hoping that it goes the other way, that they use this as that sharp reminder and then take the journey this season. I think part of the reason for excitement, though, is that key change at the offensive coordinator position, which a lot of fans are hoping that with a new offensive coordinator who led a lot of great Cowboys offenses, we will see similar results in LA. Watching Kellen Moore up close, can you see any differences, maybe the way he interacts with players compared to the previous staff? Like, what are your observations of Kellen early in training camp?
Well, I'm watching Kellen call plays, and I'm seeing a lot of shots. It's just a lot of shots down.
That's what we like to hear. Yeah.
And before, it's easy to pile on the previous offensive coordinator. I will say this, okay? Yeah, everybody deserves a share of blame. Again,
and they had success in 2021, right? It's not like it was all bad with the previous regime either.
Look at Justin's numbers in 2021. The fact that Justin was hurt, guys, it doesn't really, it hasn't been talked about as much as I thought it should be talked about this offseason. Like, people, just because he toughed it out and played every game.
100%. If it was Aaron Rodgers or another quarterback who was mentioning it in the press, maybe it would have received more attention, but Herbert never said about it.
Yeah, and that's his personality. He's not going to. He's not going to make excuses, and frankly, he shouldn't. And, week 2, though, like, broken rib cartilage in week 2 against Kansas City Chiefs. Imagine, guys, if they won that game. They were dominating that first half, like dominating the Kansas City Chiefs. Some really tough calls in that first half. The Gerald Everett slip and the interception, 6 just crushed them. And then at the end of the game, insult to injury, Justin gets hurt, and that's about as painful as you can imagine. I remember the game, I think it was a week or 2 later, where they played Jacksonville at home, and we had no idea that he was even going to play. Like, we thought Chase Daniel was going to get ready and start that game. He came out. Obviously, they got beat pretty bad, but the guy was hurt. The personnel on the field, like, they had no speed. Once Jalen Guyton got hurt at the end of the Jacksonville game, Keenan was already out. You're relying on DeAndre Carter to play like a meaningful receiver role last year, and he was just supposed to be your returner, right? So, like, Joshua Palmer, I told Joshua this on Wednesday when we interviewed him. I don't think that they get to the playoffs if they don't beat the Falcons in Atlanta in November, and Josh doesn't have the game that he had. He really stepped up, and he stepped up against the Chiefs, I think, in both of those games. He had big games against the Kansas City Chiefs. So Mike came back, and then you saw when Mike and Keenan came back against Miami, like, okay, this is what it's supposed to look like again, right?
Exactly.
Mike gets hurt. So you don't have Mike in a game. You're up 27-0 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's not making excuses for Joe Lombardi, but it does provide a little context.
It's context.
They couldn't run the football. And again, some of that does fall on the offensive coordinator. You got to be able to run the football, especially in the playoffs, especially late in games. So all that being said, Kellen Moore, do we know what it's going to look like? I don't know. I know there's going to be more shots, though. And to see Quentin Johnston and Justin, the early chemistry in camp has been refreshing to see. To see the Keenan and Mike and Joshua Palmer trio that already has that time on task with Justin.
Incredible.
To see, you saw what Gerald Everett did in the playoff game against Jacksonville. Probably had his best game of the year.
Yeah.
Donald Parham is back. They got a hoops team, and then Austin, 38 touchdowns the last 2 years. So Kellen Moore has so much to work with, not to mention the left tackle being back, Corey Linsley at center. You got Zion moving to the left side, Sawyer moving to the right side of right guard, and Trey Pipkins, who, last year I think toughed out a lot of injuries too that not a lot of people talked about.
Yeah, well, so much of what Kellen has now is, like you said, health, and the offensive line was somewhat of a revolving door. Linsley in and out, Matt Filer not at the sort of level that he'd been for his first couple of years at the Chargers. Rashawn Slater out as well. Rookie 6th round left tackle. Like, there was a lot not sort of in Joe's favor there, but hopefully, Trey. I think Trey was back at training today, which is good after missing 4 odd sessions in a row. So yeah, fingers crossed. He toughed it out. He was one of the hardest sluggers last year. I think a really undecorated kind of warrior with how limited he was to what he
it's
can
about health across the line, guys. If that group stays healthy this year, you're going to be able to run the football with Joshua Kelly and Isaiah Spiller. We know what Austin's capable of, but if you could just hold the line for Justin and let him get down the field to Quentin Johnston, his run after catch ability, Joshua Palmer. I really am excited for him. I think that he's been a little bit overshadowed because of the
he looks like he's making plays every day at camp. Josh Palmer's stepping up to the challenge. He's saying, "You wait, rookie. I'm ready to go. I'm not going to give up snaps too easily." I know, Chris, you've got a short out soon, but to flip quickly to the defense, new coordinator, looks like he brings a lot of energy to the table. Mostly the same personnel, except one key change, bringing in an all-pro linebacker in Kendricks, who just, when you hear the linemen talk, SJD, Fox, they're talking about the difference they're noticing and the vocal leadership from the linebacker position, telling them where to go or talking about the fronts and stunts. Do you think this could be this Kenny Murray kind of breakout season with Eric Kendricks next to him?
A lot of people are talking about Kenneth Murray. A lot of his peers, and that's encouraging. Yeah. I'd love to see it. I'm a big Kenneth Murray fan. He's a great person first and foremost, and I've liked how he kind of bounced back after Staley's first year. And he was hurt. It was tough to kind of find a position on the field for him. They tried him out at edge. I think I remember the game against Houston late in the year, and just wasn't a fit. And he made up for it last year, and I think he can take another step. And I think having a guy like Kendricks on the field is going to help. Obviously, the key to this defense, guys, we didn't get to see it last year. We were so excited to see it. Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack together for, I know it's a 17-game season. Let's get them on the field for 14 games together. Let's see what happens. You know what I mean? Like, and then is Tuli Tuipulotu going to be able to make an impact this year? 2nd round pick, 20 years old. He's massive.
Most sacks in college football, why not?
If you watch Chargers Weekly this week, look at Tuli's legs compared to Money in my legs. I'll tell you everything you need to know about what a is. He's a monster. They need to find. They didn't bring back Kyle Van Noy, I think, for a reason. They're banking on Joey being ready to go with Khalil and Tuli contributing and Chris Rump taking another step. You got Fox and Sebastian Austin Johnson working his way back.
Coming
in.
back.
Well, people-
Obonia coming back
The
as
names
well.
are there.
Yeah.
We've just got to put it all out on the field, and there's lots to be excited about. Hey, Chris, a final question, non-football related.
Yes, sir.
Jack is soon to be a father in the next couple of weeks of a baby girl, and I know you're a dad to 2 twins, I believe. So do you have any advice, any wisdom you can impart for our friend Jack about soon to be a girl dad?
Well, Jack, first, congratulations.
Thanks, mate. I appreciate
It
that.
is it's the most amazing thing I've ever done. It's crazy. Get ready not to sleep.
Yep.
And hey, speaking of Australia, I've watched every single episode of Bluey maybe 2 times.
Yeah.
At least.
Do you see any parallels between you and Bandit, the dad?
I do, but every time Bandit comes on the screen, dad, she points to me. So she like,
Oh, that's amazing.
Correlation.
That's
Listen,
so
man,
good.
Andy doesn't have a kid, so I'm not sure why he knows that. He's just watching.
hey, listen, it's a good
Well
show.
read, mate.
It's actually a good show. But Jack, congratulations, man. The best advice I can give you is just enjoy the ride, man. Just just let it all just go, man. It's the best thing I've ever done. And it's fun to see them grow every single day and change, and they're going to daycare in a month. So
Amazing.
It's your little girl will be watching Justin Herbert hoist the Lombardi here in a few years,
Yeah.
That's right. Oh, yeah.
Hell,
Yeah,
a few
so
months.
exciting.
Why not a couple of times?
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic.
Exactly.
Fantastic. Well, Chris, mate, thank you so much for taking the time out to come and talk Chargers football and parenthood with us. It's been an absolute pleasure. Like I said, we're massive fans of the work you do. Guys out there, you know where to find Chris. Joined with Matt Money Smith on Chargers Weekly and all the other awesome stuff he does. Appreciate it, man. Looking forward to more of your content as the season goes on.
Hey, you guys are the best, man. Keep it up. One of the things I've noticed since we started Chargers Weekly, all the awesome Chargers podcasts, and like there's so many awesome ones, including you guys, and I think just keep it rolling because you can never have enough content. As a fan, you want to consume it as much as you possibly can. Everybody has different perspectives, and I can't thank you guys enough for everything you do in terms of just being there for fans and giving your perspective.
Yeah,
thanks so much.
Appreciate it, man.
Thanks, Chris.
That's lovely. That's one thing we've noticed for sure is the community we've had caught up with a couple of the guys who do shows in the States on the Chargers, and they're just all lovely people, and it's just it makes the whole enjoyment of this just that much more special. So thanks, you're really the flag bearer of it. So appreciate it, mate.
Thank you.
All the best.
Hey, appreciate you guys, man. We'll have to do it again soon.
Let's
Sounds
do
good,
it.
Chris.
Looking forward to it, man.
See you, mate.
Be well.
See you later.
Hey, guys.
Rivers backpedals, looking, firing. He's got Floyd turning. Got it! Zigzag, 10, 5, high step, touchdown! San Diego!
Good night! Good night to all!